Welcome to Facing the Nation for October 11th, 2024. It's wonderful to be back with you guys. I want to encourage you as we start the program. You know, every time we get on this program, we have so much to talk about. There is a lot happening. So we want to tell you to call up your neighbor, call up your friend. Tell them Facing the Nation is on. Share the link on your pages as well. Of course, we're on the People's National Congress Reform page on Facebook, the AP and UFC page on Facebook, Credible Source, People's National Congress on the YouTube. Share, call somebody and let them know that Facing the Nation is on. And today, of course, we have a packed program for you. There's lots to talk about, and I will not delay. Today's guest is no stranger to social media. He's no stranger to politics and the things that we're going to talk about today. I want to welcome to my show once again none other than the Honorable Vince Roy Jordan, Member of Parliament, the Vice Chairman of the People's National Congress Reform, and Shadow Minister of Agriculture. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me. And good afternoon to your listening and viewing audience. It's a pleasure being.
Thank you so much for joining. This show particularly has been long overdue, but we're here and there is so much to talk about. I think I want us to start off. I know there are lots of hot topics going right now with the announcements made yesterday. And, you know, there are lots of other things happening on the scene. Social media is talking about a lot. But before we get into some of that, I want us to talk a little about the agriculture sector and what has been happening there, because a lot has been happening in that sector as well. We're seeing new things popping up every day, you know, the usual put a screen on it situation, and you have been doing an awesome job exposing what is really happening in the agriculture sector. I mean, Guyanese are feeling the blunt of what is also happening in that sector, because we know what the cost of food is like currently in Guyana. So let's talk about that. I know that there were a few issues about a couple weeks ago that you were dealing with in terms of your exposures of the agriculture sector. Let's talk about that first.
All right. Right. So thank you very much again, Shaneika. And I'm happy that you availed the time so that we can delve into some of the things that I'm pretty much engaged in at the moment. Not being that you're not hearing much about it in the last few days, that it means that we are not still um, actively involved in it. As a matter of fact, I still have my pulse on it. So I want to start first of all with MMA, a very, very, very ticklish area. One
Mhm.
area where it manages all the lands, drainage to some extent, irrigation and all of
Mhm.
that. With regard to rice farmers within the entire MMA scheme, spanning across Mahaica, Maikoni, and the Abari districts. And so, for viewers who might not have known, MMA was developed under the Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham government, and it was initiated, developed, and put in place so that it can benefit rice farmers, other cash crop farmers, residents of the Mahaica Borbis region in particular, and also be able to lend support to NDCs and various communities along this part of the coast. Recently, we found that the PPP being installed, that the MMA ADA is not being managed the way it ought to. Um, of course, coming off of an APNU AFC government where standards were so high, accountability and transparency. There were hallmarks of management there at MMA. What is happening
Mhm.
now is that we have a deterioration in transparency and accountability. What we have now is corruption, and corruption at its
It's
highest levels since the PPP took office. And we are experiencing at the moment at MMA where millions of dollars went missing, unaccounted for. I would
Mhm.
say that many are involved in it and management would have known, but they're trying to cover up in some way or the other what is actually happening there at MMA. You would understand that I exposed almost some $900 million that went
Yes.
through procurement processes, through payment with contracts, kickbacks, kickback to the boys. And then I also exposed that area where they paid millions of dollars. Again, that's apart from that millions of dollars to a ghost security. And the person who did the payment, the
Mhm.
supervisor, he is still on the job. He was found guilty, um, and held culpable in the way that the PPP said that they are taking care of it. But I mean, you cannot come
Yes.
to a nation and say that you took care of the board took care of a matter that involves millions of Guyanese dollars, taxpayers'
Mhm.
dollars that
Mhm.
belongs to the people of Guyana. And then all that you're saying for a man who would have been engaged in corrupt activities and misuse, misappropriation, theft of this money, that you give him a pat on the wrist, the board sat, the board
And that's
met, and they decided, God in heaven knows, and they come up with a decision on, but he's still on the job. Who knows whether he would have paid back the money in full? That is what is alleged. And the government, through the Ministry of Agriculture, more so the board at MMA, they're saying that it is okay that they can just say they would have dealt with the matter, the opposition who are responsible for holding the government accountable, scrutinizing what they do, and bringing to light the malpractices and irregularities. They're saying that we
mhm.
are not doing it. As a matter of fact, they call it baseless accusations. But out of the
Correct.
very baseless accusations, I want to bring to the public's attention that someone was sent on 6 months suspension at
Mhm.
MMA. All the time you haven't heard about that. Out of the same baseless accusations, people were made to repay hundreds of thousands of dollars at the MMA ADA out of the same
Mhm.
baseless accusation in a matter
Mhm.
of days. entire ministry and the Minister of Agriculture to MMA to hold meetings with the farmers and other preparing the scheme to speak to them about issues in them with regards to land leases and whatever might be other challenges with regards to the planting of rice, the crops, cattle rearing and such like within the scheme.
Mhm.
I want to also know that you give me this opportunity and let it be known, very clear. The minister at that point in time, after hearing a number of complaints, of which I have some where people sent to me written that they would have said this to the minister, and here it is that I'm saying to you, we said this, let us wait to see what he will do. And the minister initiated what we would say, he called an audit. And he said he wants an audit to be initiated to be into the amount of leases that were issued, whether they were done in a transparent manner. He wanted to know who they were given to, and all
Mhm.
sorts of questions he was asking. But right under the minister's nose is a prominent officer of the board of MAADA who puts himself out to society as if he is both the general manager and as if he is the chairman of the board. He goes about taking care of every matter at the MMA ADA, and he is alleged to be a person who would have sold 115 over 115 acres
Eight. Correct. Mhm.
land, lands
Correct.
that are leased by the MMA but are in control of by the state. Those lands cannot and should not be sold in no way, shape, or form. But this officer, whom they say is the vice chairman of the board, but going through the MMA Act, I've never seen any provision for a vice chairman of the board. This man is running scot free when the minister is right over him as his boss, and
Mhm.
he both of them being PPP operatives, nothing is being done about the matter. Further to that, it is
Mhm.
alleged that the manager of the surveillance department, he uses the government vehicle, the government fuel, the government equipment to be engaged in surveys, land surveys with other private entities who are building these hope-like canals, and he is being paid. I have in my possession a number of or I should say several surveys that were done by this individual, stamped and marked by the Guyana Lands and Survey, but as a matter of fact, was signed off by another private surveyor, just to
Mhm.
shadow were done by MMAADA, which is a government semi-autonomous agency. And these are some
Mhm.
of the levels of corruption coming out of that agency. When
Now,
we would have, yes, go ahead.
finish what you're saying because I wanted to put in. I know it's a lot there going on
That
there,
is
but
only one agency.
I wanted to say, I remember us visiting Blackbush Polder area, I believe, maybe it was Yakasari or one of those areas, where people talked about the issue of the drainage and how they were dealing with it. And one man went as far as to say, whoever was in control of it during the coalition time, they should bring him back because they did not have those issues during the coalition period. And
And
I'll let you
it's
go ahead on that particular agency because I want to get to GMC as well.
well, I was just skipping over to that. But let me just complete. It is the reality because we find here in the MMA district, which is separated apart from that of Yakasari Blackbush Polder and that quarantine coast where farming is very, very much prevalent. A lot of people engage in rice farming. But
Yeah.
right here, our farmers are crying out because when it is time for the release of water, because MMA is responsible for both drainage and irrigation. And it works hand in hand because you have to
Mm-hmm.
prepare for eventualities such as flood, spring, whatever it might be that might force water back into the land. You have to prepare
Right.
for the necessary time when you would need water to come into the lands. And persons have been complaining, rice farmers have been complaining over and repeatedly. Cattle farmers
Mm-hmm.
have been complaining. Look, as a matter of fact, I was in Fowls on the west coast of Berbice. This is to the main road, though, um, on the left bank of the Abari River, but to the main road. And farmers are complaining they don't have access to fresh water for their
Correct.
cattle, have access to fresh water for the cash crop. If you see suckers, if you see tomatoes, it is a lot of farming, but the people are being deprived of the
Mm-hmm.
access to fresh water. They complain that when the coalition was there, these they were seasonal and persons who used to come at intervals to check and to
Check.
know, and then they manage and release water, and then they come and it was rationed. So water was not just released out to the Atlantic just like that. Now you find that
Yeah.
sluices are left open, sluices are not functioning, and a whole range of other issues. I went to Bad Settlement also. You might have seen that video. A farmer planting he told me 4,000 roots of okra. If you see this crop, the field, and all died as a result of him not having fresh water. On top of that, one officer of the Central Housing and Planning Authority, he thought that he probably is bigger than the minister, as the farmer would have said. And he went and he removed what we would call a stop off that was in the canal. He break it, he build it back. He break it, MMA build it back. MMA break it, he build it back. It was like
Wow.
that. Go come, go come.
Wow.
This man is more powerful. And I went to the farm and I checked on this farmer, and he suffered. He lost millions of dollars. Cherry plants, guava, you name it. He had a whole range. Belange, those were bearing, and he could not have saved not one. And the government is not concerned. The Minister of Agriculture is not concerned. But they say to Guyanese that they care about them, and they have this thriving, vibrant agricultural plan, and they have a plan that will better the lives of all Guyanese. But I tell you, the only way the lives of Guyanese will be better, or the only way agriculture in the whole will be properly developed, as we as the coalition have a plan to put agriculture in every region, developing a regional agricultural system. As a matter of fact, that will form part of our policy, that when we
Mm-hmm.
take government, we have a national agricultural drive in every region. In region 8 and 9, what obtains best there in terms of agricultural produce, we will do it. In regions 10 and region 7, we will make it work. Having agricultural institutions set up for training and education, and then moving people to the farmlands, moving people to the waters, if it be um fishing, moving people to the fields for cattle, for other livestock, moving people into um uh poultry and other areas of farming. And so we have a plan, but this government, clearly you can see it is
No.
they fly by night ideas, and it is their handouts and their own way of giving to friends,
Mm-hmm.
families, and favorites. Here in Region 5, they give out um, hundreds of acres of land to prominent people in the region, but they're all associated to the People's
Yeah.
Progressive Party.
I I want you. I remember the issue of the Guyana Marketing Corporation as well being raised by you, and I think it was mid September, early September. The minister promised that he would have an investigation. And even in that, I think it was an acknowledgement of what was being said, that it was true, and that he will have a proper investigation into this matter. Have we heard about it as yet? Is there
Well,
any
I was
information
on
on that investigation?
I was on a program just about 2 days ago, and I spoke about it. Ali coming to the or went to the National Assembly, and I challenged, let him tell Guyanese about those audits. Now, to bring it to the attention of Guyanese, to date we have not heard one word again from
Mm-hmm.
the Minister of Agriculture with regards to that audit. But let me give you the genesis of this issue, if I may, Shaneika, and
Go
your
ahead.
viewers.
Mm-hmm.
The matter didn't start with the Minister of Agriculture making the statement, or rather the exposure, and then the statement from the Minister of Agriculture with regards to there being an audit. It
Mm-hmm.
started when the agency coordinators and program managers and of senior officers colluded with those at the helm of the ministry. And as you are aware, that the Minister of Agriculture is complicit in all of the allegations that are leveled against, the corrupt allegations against his ministry. And so he knows about the smuggling of chicken. He knows about the egg scandal. He knows about the hatchery issues, but he has done nothing. Whether it be allegations that he was involved, whether it be allegations that he knows fully and is part and parcel, the fact remains that as Minister of Agriculture, it is your responsibility to oversee every agency that falls under the Ministry of Agriculture. And
Correct.
therefore, the responsibility lies at your feet for accountability and transparency and prudent management of those agencies. I said that to say that when the ministry made that statement, the general manager, Mrs. Lal, or Miss Lal, came out in a subsequent statement just mere hours after the Minister of Agriculture. And she said to the public, she said it was not the Minister of Agriculture who launched this audit. It was not the
Mm-hmm.
Minister of Agriculture who initiated the audit against that manager and the SP, the Special Projects Manager and the accountant. She said it was not the minister who instructed that this must be done. She says, as a matter of fact, I wrote repeatedly to the ministry. I asked
Mm-hmm.
repeatedly for advice, the way forward that I should go with regards to the scandal and the allegations leveled against these officers. As a matter of fact, she said, based on an internal investigation, these were the findings. And the
Mm-hmm.
findings led her to initiating with her team an audit that would Guyanese would know proved the levels of corruption and the allegations against
Yeah.
these officers.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of the minister coming to say that people or persons will be held accountable, the minister comes in its complete manner and behavior, knowing fully well what is happening, and he tries to sugarcoat, and he says that the ministry doesn't sell eggs, the ministry is not responsible for chicken, and the ministry don't. Now, how can you, as the Minister of Agriculture, distance yourself from an agency that falls under your ministry? I don't care if you
Mm-hmm.
don't sell the egg. I don't care if you don't bring the chicken. I care about the accountability and the transparency of Guyanese monies that must go to every single agency and be spent properly and be accounted for. I'm also in concern that at the end of the day, you provide a report that Guyanese would know is not something that is fictitious, but it is true. And the manager was trying to do just that. But the minister was not, in my view, supportive of it because, as you know, the saying goes, it is what they all are doing from the head right down. All are
Mm-hmm.
involved in it. So you find that today I understand recently the Auditor General had some involvement in that report and that audit, and so it will be made, would be brought to the public's attention. But we know once you allow the PPP to go 1 week or 1 month without saying anything about it, that they
It
will
will go on
think
the
and
route.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to remind the Minister of Agriculture that we have not forgotten about the issues at GMC. We have not forgotten about the issues and corruption at MMA. We have not forgotten about the issues and corruption at Albion Estate, this 50 million becoming 600 million. We have not forgotten about the issues at the Rosal Estate, where two senior managers were sacked as a result of what they would determine or what they put as missing sugar. We will not um,
Mm-hmm.
forget the
Mm-hmm.
scandal and proven destruction or sabotage, as they would want to put it, of over 30,000 duck eggs at the hatchery in at GLDA. We will not forget about them and the many other corruption that are leveled against other agencies and other ministries across this country. But we will continue to speak about them until they
Correct.
bring resolution, Guyanese are satisfied with the responses that they would have given, and people are held accountable.
Well, I do know that, and most Guyanese by now would know that when you're talking about the PPP, corruption has to go in the same line. So I firmly believe we're going to talk about it. Shame is going to force them to do certain things, but the ultimate way to deal with it is go to the polls whenever those elections are called and get rid
So
of
true.
the corrupt PPP regime. I want us to touch a little because while we're talking about all these things happening in the agriculture sector. We see all of the corruption. You've pointed out all the different areas. But when you go to the news, like, if you just Google the Ministry of Agriculture, issues or news on it, you would think that all is well in the agriculture sector. You see things like Guyana is on track to reduce food bill by 25% by 2025, talking about, supplying the Caribbean. Um, there's so many headlines here. Farmers to benefit 5.3 million US dollars. You see all of these headlines that once you Google news on the agriculture sector, particularly things focusing on how they're helping every other Caribbean nation. And the reality of Guyanese is it is hard to go and buy greens in the market today. The cost of greens in the market, the cost of fruit in the market is so high that in some cases you can buy foreign fruit cheaper than local fruit. Now, how do we deal with those things as we weigh them and as we see them and the real experiences of ordinary Guyanese in this country?
Well, Shanika, I'm happy that you would have mentioned those. And I want to stick in the other one where they continue to speak about this food security and Guyana being the breadbasket of the Caribbean and would provide CARICOM with all the necessary food through agriculture. But what is important to note out of all these headlines is that the reality is Guyanese are suffering.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We cannot be boasting and holding agricultural forum, agricultural expo, and all these things, bringing all these Caribbean leaders every year and having a big time of wine and champagne
Right.
and speeches
Mm-hmm.
when the reality is you go into the farms, you go into the markets, you go into the communities, and people are suffering as a result of either lack or high prices when it comes to agricultural commodities and produces. I'll
Mm-hmm,
say
mm-hmm.
clearly, we cannot even provide the sufficient amount of what we would call greens or vegetables and
Mm-hmm.
for our local market. And remember,
Correct.
the amount of foreigners we have coming in, those working with exotic and all of that, and we
Correct.
ship food out the for those working on ships and those on all the other big projects. And so we have a great influx of persons coming into the country, but our food um, production is still the same, or as a matter of fact, it lags behind that of what we had in 2020 or let's say 2019. Now we have to be preparing for what is to come, and so you cannot expect the same level of production that you were producing in 2019. Let's take for example, with probably an amount to feed of 10 to be the same when you have to feed 50 in 2024. And it is
Mm-hmm.
very clear. The coalition, we have a plan to expand agriculture, like I said, to every single region. Now, first thing that we need to do is to increase our agricultural produce. We must be able to have more rice and paddy in the field. We must be able to have more vegetables, more crops, invest in cash crop. We must be able to train small and medium size farmers and put them into the
Mm-hmm.
fields,
Correct.
lands within, open up lands within our interior savannas, within our highland region. We must be able to open and give to them the necessary tools, the necessary equipment, the necessary starting products and produce that they would need, so as an end result they will have the produces that we require, and that will be able to meet the national demand. And if you follow carefully, we have not been able to meet the national demand, hence the hiking costs for vegetables and fruits. When I go to the market, you see people holding up, I don't know if you can see it, but a small bundle of
Yep.
boro as my hand is, and they're telling you
Mm-hmm.
that they're paying 4, 5, even $600 for them small, 2, 3 small bundles of
Correct.
Bora. You see people with tomatoes, and some of the tomatoes, my God, you still want to know if it's tomatoes. And it is not that the government is doing anything about it. The mid-year report of the Bank of Guyana says that
Correct.
livestock production has decreased. And well, of course, they didn't tell us a percentage by how much. They just said a decrease, and we know for a fact there's a decline, because from since the last flood, when farmers lost um cattle and other livestock and all these things, the 2020 flood and others that would have coupled along the way, the government has not fully compensated. The government has not fully helped farmers to with restarting their businesses, restarting their farms,
Mm-hmm.
and getting them back on track. They have done it in a haphazard manner where they only meet their friends, their family, and favorite. And as a result of that, it affects the entire nation. It affects the entire industry. You find now that the smuggling of chicken, oh my God, it is so rampant. But even though this
Yeah.
chicken is being smuggled into the country, you find in some areas the chicken prices are very, very high. And the people are selling the very smuggled chicken at enormous prices. And so there's no plan to really deal with agriculture. We have said as a coalition, we will put the plans and programs in place to have grants for small farmers, to have
Correct.
them receive the necessary startup training. The leader would have said, we're going to train 50,000 um youngsters, adults, and whilst them being trained, we give them a stipend of $50,000 and provide them with the necessary tools to get into the businesses that they want. Farming is part of that, agriculture is part of that. That is part
Mm-hmm.
of our 50,000 job initiative. And the coalition government through the APNCR, APNU is prepared to deliver this to our Guyanese people. We find that persons are still coming out of the Guyana School of Agriculture. I know of 2 young men right now, and they cannot find a job anywhere in the country. Let's say, all right, they cannot find a job in the traditional, be it the semi-autonomous public service areas. Let us be able to develop programs that when they leave school, Guyana School of Agriculture, some of them doesn't necessarily have to go into becoming supervisors and managers and
Yeah.
engineers and agronomists and all of that in agent. They can become entrepreneurs of themselves and starting businesses
Mm-hmm.
and helping to develop. They can come out from the School of
Mm-hmm.
Agriculture, train within communities, farmers, and have them develop farms and train farmers whilst they're working and producing for the nation. So
Correct.
if
Correct.
I can tell you, government is visionless. And
Mm-hmm.
when we speak about it, one of them asked me, what do I know about agriculture? Well, having come from region number 5, one of the largest agricultural regions, having come from
Correct.
the Bobby's High School, graduating with a double award distinction in agriculture, having coming from the Guyana School, guys,
Mm-hmm.
Training Center in Port, graduating in agriculture, mechanic, and that level of engineering, motor vehicle
Mm-hmm.
works, and all of that. Worked at the Gaisuko at all the major estates. And let me say this to the public so that the public would know. I was one of the apprentices that stood there when that failure of a second vice president, Barajagdio, opened the Skeldon sugar factory.
Mm-hmm.
I was an apprentice in training there. And we knew from since then there was big issues. I'm telling you, since in 2006, 2000, between 2006, 2008, I was there at Albion, Port Moran, and Skeldon. And the farmer, the seniors to us, because we were in training, they said this thing can't work. It's a failure. The juice, one time I can remember, all the juice went missing and we saw no sugar as an end result. But yet still they said that was a turning point. And so I want to tell, especially those in the PPP that keeps writing in articles and asking, well, what does he know about agriculture? And after coming out of the Daisuku Training
Yeah.
Center, after 4 years of service in that area with a double distinction and a credit, tell me if I don't know about agriculture after coming through all of those. But it is not because I would not have professed it or have it seen that I don't know. Having been
They don't do
raised
the
in a
research.
family that raised, they never did research. Having been raised in a
Mm-hmm.
family that comes from a livestock, mining of sheep, goat, you name it, all the different things, planting my own garden. You telling me that I don't know about agriculture? But one thing I have to say is that I know enough to run the Ministry of Agriculture and enough than the current Minister of Agriculture. And once you know enough more than him and the PPP, you don't need to know more.
Correct is right. Correct is right. And I liked how you put that. But it is customary for statements to be made without any checking, anything. The PPP just spew words around, at any willy nilly way, how they like. You see things them also talking about the sugar estates that were closed down, and they failed to mention the PPP closing at least four of estates long before the coalition got into power. They love to hide that fact that they themselves closed estates and at the time give absolutely no training to those persons that they would have put out of a job, but they didn't give any monies either to cushion them. But it was the coalition when they came who ventured into training at Wales and training those persons coming out of that background, and also paying them, what was due to them. And I think that is something we have to continue to remind them, because as I'm looking at the comment section here, I see some of them popping up with the same old story again. I see. You wanted to say something. I think we have a little delay.
Yes, yes, there is a delay. I figure with the internet, but
Mm-hmm.
but nothing has changed in the Progressive Party. Look, what Guyanese need, and I think Guyanese are sensible enough to know the PPP started the downsizing of Gaisuku. So people
Mm-hmm.
don't be fooled It was the PPP who closed several of the East, the Demerara states. It was the
Yes.
PPP who closed Port Royal. A number of estates that Guyanese now might not, read the news back then and or forgotten. It was the PPP who started the closures. It was the PPP
Mm-hmm.
who under I think it was Paul Bim then as CEO of Gaisuko, or probably Nick Jackson. One of the two, either Nick Jackson had just left and Paul Bim would have come, or Errol Anuman. It was the PPP who announced the largest cost cutting exercise at Gaisuko. I
Yeah.
was an apprentice at Gaisuko being trained at the time when in 2006 between 2006 and 2007, the PPP announced a cost cutting exercise that brought almost Gaisuko. It was the PPP who, when they were under the ministry, the leadership of Barrett was president and Robert Posada as minister, that when we built Albion and Rosal Estate, that you had to strip one tractor, you had to strip three tractors to make one tractor. I can tell you about that. When the boilers were down over the factory, that to cannibal going till to over the Raymond Estate and come back with one part. Just look, it was the P that started the destruction of Guyana.
Mm-hmm.
And today they come back. It is the same mess that I want to talk about. It was the PPP that instituted charges, not charges, fees to the University of Ghana. Now they come and play Lord and God that
Mm-hmm.
they are removing fees. It
Moving.
was the very PPP who brought Ghana to its knees, and now they're coming to take our monies from the resource, the oil resource, and from the treasury, and would have pumped over $40 billion thus far into Gaisuku. And it is not because of persons who are working in the industry doing. We have competent, well qualified engineers, hard
Mm-hmm.
working laborers, staff
Correct.
Gaisuku. There are a few incompetent in wrong holes are affecting the proper development and management of Gaisuko. And I'm saying to the nation that once we remain steadfast with the estates that we would have mentioned, and we would have kept open, we will develop that industry and we will keep it going with prudent management and bring Gaisuko back to viability. It would have to be supported by the government, but you cannot support something and you giving at the top and you're destroying at and down to the
Mm-hmm.
bottom. It doesn't make sense. We have right now Canes, private farmers who are friends of the PPP government, and they're making millions of dollars ripping off the industry, millions of dollars in supplies, and they are not seeing that this contractual friends and family business is destroying the industry. The coalition will be able to fix that. Once guys open their eyes, sugar workers too, open your eyes and see that we were managing Gaisuko. To date, we would not have put that among me that the PPP already poured in to go, because the prudent management, the corruption cut out, the theft cut out. We would have
Mm-hmm.
put far less and still keep guys prudent management, a proper CEO, competent board, and managers who have the industry at heart, and managers who care about the development and the production of the industry, and who believe that they come here to make a dollar and they make it at any cost, and they do as they well please with the office that they're placed to run in.
Mm-hmm. Very well said. Um, Coming up, I know I have seen in your community, in your areas, a lot of outreaches have been done in those areas. What is the feel? What is the sense as you go out and you meet persons in the different communities in Region 5? What is the sense that you get about everything that is generally happening in the country?
Well, I can put it this way: the population, as a matter of fact, this morning I was talking just to before I get there. This morning I was talking to a resident via telephone, of course, And the resident said to me, look, I don't know what next to do because this whole thing of giving $200,000 is not going to help my situation. He said the measures they were announced, I know it will benefit Guyanese somewhere or the other, but he said, look at me. I am not going to benefit from it. He outlined to me how he will not and why he is frustrated and believes that by the end of the year he would be in even more serious trouble than he is in now. But coming back to the view of the general region, the feeling and the talk. Guyanese are frustrated at one, the high cost of living. It affects every Guyanese. It cuts across every race. It cuts across every people in various positions. It cuts across communities, whether you call it PVP, red community or new green community. It cuts across every sector of our society. Apart, the people are saying that because the corruption level has risen to this high point and they're smelling it, it's like, it's like a bad odor, that they know it is contributory factor to this whole hardship in the country. Because you find that instead of monies being plugged into the country to help the alleviation of the high cost of living and other measures. I'm going to come to the healthcare issue, and the money is going to just a few. And they say what further frustrates it is that the few that receives the money, they are bringing such pressure upon those who have to work with them, and the control over the communities, the control over things. One person highlighted to me, she said, you see the street, when I went in, I saw a whole lot of vehicles and so on. So I wouldn't name the community because I know these people so damn vindictive. They would go to victimize people.
Correct.
And
Correct.
vehicles and so on the street. And the resident mentioned that she can't even see past. She's up on her own veranda. She can't see past the street to see anything outside, the breeze, everything. She said, listen, it is one man being a friend of a certain member of parliament and officials of the PPP, and that man having contracts and all the likes from the PPP, and he is doing as he please, right? And so those are some of the issues. Apart from that, when you go into the community, people tell you when they go to Fort Wellington Hospital, of which we put in laboratory, 24-hour service and emergency at
Correct.
that hospital, having doctors on call. We did that without oil resources under the coalition government led by the Honorable Minister of Health, Volda and Lawrence. We did that as a government. We did at the Myconi Hospital, where we had minor surgeries and all the system, everything was put in place that this PPP now enjoying. We developed and designed a program, not a program, sorry, a plan for the construction of the green hospital, we called it. And you will see where you will find all the services being offered there. You don't have to travel to Georgetown, your Amsterdam hospital, to have medical services rendered to you. And persons are saying no. When they go to Fort Wellington Hospital, Panadol, amoxicillin,
Can't yet.
this other one, you can't get the one that hit me the other day was the small thing that the baby, chloroform they call it, that the baby's got to use. None was at the Fort Wellington hospital dispensary. I did, and this is what I can prove. I did my own survey, and I went to the Fort Wellington Hospital. I went to the doctor, and I said, Doc, I'm not feeling well. Indeed, I wasn't well, but I don't normally just go to the hospital. I would fight. Men having this thing with
Yes.
immature.
Going to
I
going to the
I went
hospital.
in, and of course, the doctor did an excellent job. Wrote up the prescription, checked me,
Prescription.
and did everything that she had to do. When the doctor was finished, I went into the waiting area and I waited, and then I took the prescription to the the pharmacist.
Pharmacist.
The pharmacist put out a pocket pills, can't remember which one it was, and the pharmacist handed me back the prescription, and she wrote nicely on it with what and what they didn't, they don't have. And she said, you could purchase this at the drugstore. I, in this year, went to the hospital, and that was the experience. And you know what? When I raised it, they said it was not true. It was far from the truth. That is not the case. But I will tell you how I caught them. I went up. I said, this nonsense got to stop. I went, took the prescription as it were, and I went up to the RHO's office. And when I went to the office, I did not identify myself. But some people who knew me, they smiled and they said, "Good day, MP. Good morning." They greeted me. The secretary, probably she didn't know me, and so she said, kindly wait a little, you go. And anyhow, long story short, I went in to meet with the officer. When I went to the office, I said I went to the pharmacy and I couldn't get these items. She called pick up the phone and she called the person in charge of the pharmacy, the head. And they said, no, we have these things. Who could have said that? And who could the officer is then saying to me that we have these things. I said, I just came from the pharmacy downstairs and I couldn't get any. As I said, as a matter of fact, here is where I got political. I said, as a matter of fact, I will raise this issue with the Minister of Health, who is Dr. Franca. I will raise it with Dr. Frank Anthony, because this is the same thing as Member of Parliament. People come to complain about to me about, and then they say that it is not true. When the ordinary man speaks about it, it is not true. The RH fall to the floor because she didn't know I was the Member of Parliament. And I identified myself at that point, could have fallen to the floor because you're lying to me about the things. So I do my work in different ways. I took the prescription and I left. I said, this, y'all, it's a bunch of incompetent people. You tell me, but it's going to come in one day, it's going to come in 2 days. I asked the question before I left. I said, am I to wait until, whether it was Thursday, I can't remember, the Thursday for you to get medication for me? I would die if I have to wait on you and the public system. So I have to go to the private hospital, the private drugstore, and get what I have to get. And it comes back to us speaking about pensioners and the elderly and the public servants who work for meager salary. When they go to the hospitals, they cannot get the medical supplies and medications that they so need, and they got to take from the same $75,000 that they take home, and they ain't get none left back after they've been to the grocery shop to search and go and buy medication. A pensioner getting 30 something $1,000 just thereabout. That pensioner got to go and take sugar tablet, pressure tablet, cholesterol medication. You name them. Who get kidney stone, get this, get that. And they have to go to the drugstore and buy. You understand? They got to purchase the medication. And the same pension that got to pay GPL, GTNT, water bill, and all of that, got to make do to see that pension until the next month on medication, because the hospitals don't have it. And there are all lot of other range of issues on the ground people burden you with, but I might not have time to lay it all here.
Yes, because we're almost out of time. But I wanted to ask, with what was being said there, with the whole hospital situation. In the president's announcements yesterday, he announced this $10,000 healthcare thing for children. And what the public is asking, is this an admission that the public system is not working, that you now have to give a $10,000 possibly for persons to go and purchase medication at a private drugstore or visit a private hospital? Is that the government's admission of what we were just talking about?
Well, Shaneika, I'm happy that you brought it up. It is more than the admission. It is the clear indication from no less of a person than the installed president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana that the public healthcare system is a failure under the People's Progressive Party civic government. Because what you find is that they are not able to meet the demand of the population in healthcare services, in the medication
Mhm.
that they need, in whatever they would need that comes under public health, they are not able to meet. I'll tell you what again, it is also coupled with corruption because these vouchers that they're giving out, it has another link to it because
Mhm.
they're designed to go to certain places. Or you must check on one of them. I had one from a child with the eye care, and I checked, and there were special places that were listed. Further to
Mhm.
that, I understood that persons were told where they must go. So you would find that if I have a friend of mine that like the one that collected his 7 billion in contracts for medical supplies on the seven the friend of the vice president. His name is Miss um not coming to me right now, but they have their friends line up that you will go to this particular pharmacy or hospital, private institution to get it done. What they were doing
Mhm.
just a few days ago, a resident brought it to my attention, is that because the system was failing, people collected these Ministry of Youth Services vouchers for eye care and other what the female stuff that they had for testing for cervical cancer and so on. And
Yes.
people
Mhm.
refuse to go to the institution to do the testing of that. And I will tell you why they refuse. They set up at a certain school or schools in Region 5, and they set up like a desk and area where they brought people from specified areas to go and to meet the children and test. No, you can't bring a child to school and test their eyes and go and do transactions without a parent knowing.
Parent
You cannot
knowing
do
about
with a
knowledge.
child without the parent knowing that you're going to perform any medical examination on their child. But it was because they were not getting the results out of this issuance of these vouchers that
Mhm.
they decided to go, and it's happening across the country. And we
Mhm.
need to
Mhm.
dig deeper into that. You check on the system. People are going, collect the vouchers, and they forget about it. Because people are saying, why must I leave Region 5 to go to Georgetown just to get a test done? When I have two major hospitals in the region and none of them
Correct.
could perform any of the tests that I need. So setting it up, they're getting at our young boys, young girls, and children in school, and they're demanding of them. I'm not fault of our teachers here. I'm not getting at our teachers. I know that this is special instruction coming from the People's Executive Party, civic operatives, and those in the government. Our teachers are not guilty. Perhaps some might be part and parcel, but from the indication and the knowledge that I have, they are not in the case or instances that I know in Region 5. I don't even know if the education department was aware of it at that point and time, but
Mhm.
it happened in Region 5, one of our A grade schools in the region,
Mhm. You
or
know,
A list.
it's a lot to be said in those regards, and we are basically out of time today. But I want, before we close off, for you to give your general view on the announcements made and whatever you believe that the viewing audience need to hear at this current time.
Well, Shanika, I was outside there, as you know, we were protesting
Yes.
um when the president probably was preparing to make his announcement or during his announcement. And at no point in time I was at any, be it anxious or hopeful of anything that would come the way that will really benefit public servants, benefit Guyanese, benefit the ordinary man. At no point in time I was, anyway hopeful in that way. But when I heard of the cash grant, $200,000 per household, I one as a matter of fact, my phone rang, and that is how I heard about it. And one, because I was busy in my protest, and the person said to me that he heard that the cash grant was going to be distributed and he wanted to know it already. Guyanese already so skeptical that whether if everybody, and if he's a wrong or
Will
not,
get.
whether he will because he's a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
Already to get my take on it that with regard to that $200,000, it is inadequate. I would put it
Mm-hmm.
as inadequate to our population. I would to say that the coalition government called for it. I think it was since 2020, 22. We started
Yeah.
calling for yes, the cash transfer of $300,000 because
Correct.
our competent economists would have advised us as an opposition since then that with the these garner oil prices that we
Mm-hmm.
could have paid that $300,000 comfortably out of that 60 billion I think set aside, and
6 billion.
further to that
Mm-hmm.
inadequate. Of course, I would say the Guyanese take the money. It is Guyanese
Mm-hmm.
money. It doesn't belong to Air Finale and the second vice president,
Mm-hmm.
Bartagdio. It is your money.
Mm-hmm.
But what we need to guard against and be prepared as members of the people and party is to see that it is distributed in a transparent and equity. It across every community and every household must receive. But household issue is another case because I heard everybody saying every household, and then I heard Jagdio saying yesterday that legitimate household. Then I heard Jagdio talking about water bill. Now, what kind of craziness is that? You just got to household and work with household. Household is
Mm-hmm.
household. Jagdio, if this lose care about money, he goes crazy. It's sure nonsense Jagdio was talking about. How you gonna talk? What is legitimate household? Give me a div. I need to ask the writers of Oxford Dictionary to include in the dictionary legitimate by legitimate household and legitimate vote. That is all I want to ask you.
All
How
right.
can you now in my village? I can tell you, there are ex-extended families in one house, several
Mm-hmm.
families living in one or a unit. How will you determine that? Those are some of the things they got. And I don't want it to be the officials from this community walking around to go and distribute. They're gonna pinpoint who is a discrimination, or rather, I made a statement: cash grant, households, and discrimination goes hand in hand when it comes to the PPP. So Guyanese must safeguard every single household must receive it, and we must start to demand that it is done in the most transparent. And I say to amidst all those promises, remember to vote APNU at the next general and regional elections. Thank you, Shaneika.
Thank you so much, MP. This program was one that edified, and of course, you dealt with the issues. I want to thank you again for coming. And of course, you will not be a stranger to the program because we got a lot more things to talk about as we go. There is so much happening and much more to happen. So I want to thank our viewers for joining our program today. We will stay tuned to our pages. There are a lot of other things that will be happening. We'll have some special Facing the Nation programs coming up during the week so that we can continue to tackle the issues that are presented and try to ask the questions that the citizens of Guyana are asking right now as we would have heard the announcement. So stay tuned to our pages, keep an update of the programs that we'll be having to talk to you about the issues at hand. I want to thank you for joining the program today and do have a wonderful weekend.